Right, so the taster that you've joined is the IT taster, and I'm Mr. Stead, and I would be teaching the course next year. I'm the only teacher of IT at Elliott Hudson, so hopefully this session gives you an idea of sort of how I go about the delivery of the IT course and what your next couple of years would be like studying at Elliott Hudson. Thankfully, you're not just stuck with me today. You've got Chloe and Harry also in the chat. Chloe's a year 13 who's just finished her course and left Elliott Hudson. Harry is year 12 who has finished for this year, but will come back next year and complete the course. And both of them have got a lot of sort of good opinions about the course. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to hear from them and possibly ask them questions in the chat yourselves. I'm just going to share the PowerPoint and I'm going to run through. It's got a couple of reminders at the start, namely I will ask you to use the chat as part of the session, but if you can wait until I actually sort of instruct you to do that, that'd be good. Harry and Chloe will monitor that for me and see if we're having any issues, but hopefully you are now viewing this presentation. So moving on from that sort of admin slide, the session that you're looking at here is IT, but it's important that you understand that that's the Cambridge Technical in IT. We don't offer academic A-levels in IT now, and that's sort of across the entire country. We're looking at vocational courses for IT. You may have heard of Cambridge Technicals or Cambridge Nationals, the equivalent to GCSEs. You've possibly heard of BTECs as well. It's that sort of qualification where we mix exams with more practical work. Okay, so over the course of the 2 years, we've got a number of different things that we will look at. Like I say, myself is here to help, in terms of now and guide you through that course, and Harry and Chloe here as well today. All right, I'll just move on past this slide. That's the lovely brochure. That's how we advertise this course. Sat on your laptop, all sorts of data in and out, making things happen all around the world. In terms of the actual breakdown of what you'll study over 2 years, the plan is in year 1 you'll do the 2 exams, an hour and 30 minutes each, and then look at the basics of IT, the fundamentals as they call it, in terms of how it all works, and then global information focuses on data and the use of data to form information to help us make decisions. Into the second year, you would look at the non-examined assessments. So hopefully with 2 good grades secured in year 12, you'd go into the second year and you'd study the practical elements of the course. We look at the Internet of Everything, so how all of our devices are becoming more connected, and things like doorbells, that can let you see who is actually stood on your doorstep, regardless of where you are in the world. We look at virtual and augmented reality, which I'll mention briefly throughout this taster. And we also cover project management, which is a skill set that will help you at any point of your life, sort of working through managing, planning, organising yourself in your A-levels and then beyond into the real world. And there's significant earning potentials with project management across many different industries. Okay, so those year 2 units, you would work on tasks, completing those in sessions in your own time, and I would guide you through that. So one of those units is focused on emerging digital technologies and specifically virtual and augmented reality. Now, you may or may not have heard of these terms. You may or may not understand that they are things that are currently in use in our society. Sometimes people think they mean the same thing, but they're actually slightly different. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to commit. I've got four images to show you, and I want you to type in the chat. If you think that what you're looking at there is virtual reality, I want you to put VR. If you think it is augmented reality, I would like you to put AR. So if you can just do that in the chat now, please. I know there's only 2 of you, but it helps if you can commit an answer. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter, because obviously this is a taster for the course where you'll learn more about these things. Okay, we've got 1 VR. We get another answer. Right, so we've both come for VR. It is difficult to identify on these slides, but what we're actually looking at there is augmented reality. And And the difference with VR and AR, we'll come to in a couple of slides time, but just very briefly, on this picture, you can actually see the real world behind these digital images that have got some of the numbers and sort of images on there. Okay. What about this one? Is this VR or AR? Right, yeah, absolutely, and I'd expect a couple of likes on those from Chloe and Harry. Yeah, this is the more traditional kind of headset use that we do associate with VR. It's trickier to identify AR on this, but with VR we are looking at some sort of headset. It doesn't have to be the most expensive. It can be Google Cardboard with mobile phones with apps dropped in. But yeah, absolutely, they're all sort of immersed in a VR experience. The next one, please. AR or VR? Yeah, that looks like VR coming through again. Again, she's got the headset on. So what she is seeing is an entirely digital world. And the last one, this is the one often catches people out. So think about what we talked about the first one. Yeah, perfect. AR. So from the first one that we got wrong, hopefully we've now picked up the subtle difference between the two. And yeah, absolutely spot on. That house is actually a digital image that is imposed on the real sort of hillside. So you can see what it might look like if you were to build a house there. Obviously, a change in lighting has been applied, but it is augmented. It doesn't exist. It's not there, but it does look like it's in the real world. So, what is virtual reality? Well, this is a quote taken from the internet, and the point of me putting this in is to identify that this course we look at a lot of common sense topics, things that we might have experience with, things that we believe we know and understand. But when it comes down to it, ultimately you're producing work that you need to understand that would explain things to others without any technical knowledge. Okay, so if I throw this quote out there, some people will understand some of it, maybe some would struggle with it. Others with experience and knowledge would get what it's on about. Essentially, VR is being immersed in an entirely computer-generated environment. Okay, so you have the headset on. Wherever you look, it is computer-generated. That's generally the kind of explanation, the most briefest that you can give in terms of virtual reality. That does differ from augmented reality. Augmented reality, again, this is quite a complex quote, but what you have to do if you study this course and you work on this unit is you have to take the information, the research that you do, a lot of it independent with me guiding you, and turn it into something you understand. So there's lots of terms there that I would never expect to see in your coursework, in the work that you do. But I would expect you to explain that augmented reality is where digital images are augmented, they are imposed on the real world. So you can still see the real world environment, however you can actually put digital images in there. And the best example, I've said this in the movie test, I'm too old and probably a bit too grumpy to have experienced it, but you may have experienced Pokemon Go and sort of games like that. That's what most people associate with augmented reality, but there are many more uses of both of these technologies, and augmented reality has a real potential to impact on our lives going forward. And you'll find out all about that hopefully if you pick the course. In terms of how does it all work? Well, the point of this slide, you should learn quite a lot from the examination units in terms of the building blocks for IT and IT systems, as it says there. Understanding, security, networking, hardware, software, everything that is exciting and creative and fun about sort of IT and IT technologies is built on those blocks. And the reason I've got the logos on here for Barclays, IBM and Cisco is to point out that this course has been designed by employers and universities to make sure sort of young adults coming out of education have the correct skill sets. It's not just about having the qualification, and that's something that these employers are keen to get the balance with, and that's what this course does really well. You get some of the academic stuff in terms of exams and theory, and then you get practical experience. And it is a course that gives you a good sort of range and combination of things that you need to sort of take with you, whether you go straight into apprenticeships or degree level apprenticeships, or through university route onto world of work. This style of course is there to sort of cover all the different bases. Okay. So in terms of how things work, you will find out over the course of your 2 years. You're certainly not expected to understand that now, but employers want you to be ready for employment, and that's where this course is useful. So it does feel very rushed. It does feel like I'm talking to a screen, because that's exactly what I am doing. Thank you for your contribution in terms of answering those little tasks on the chat. What I want to do now, there's still 7 minutes, and it's probably the most important part for you. If you have any questions, if you want to start typing those into the chat, we'll try and make sure they're answered. In the short term, or in case you don't have any questions that you can think of, I'm going to ask Chloe and Harry a couple of questions, so they can sort of provide you with a little bit of understanding of their experiences on the course. Okay, so if you want to ask something brilliant, start typing that in the chat. If not, I will use these questions just to get sort of a feel for what the students actually think. Okay, so I will go to Harry first, if you don't mind, for question 1. If you can explain what you like most about the IT course, please.
The most enjoyable part of the course was creating our own business products with the augmented reality app. This was part of the NEA coursework, and I really enjoyed it because it combined thrill of imagination and creativity with the practicality of business planning and organization. And I really like this because it taught me valuable skills like planning, organization, and documentation, and applying that actually to a real world context with clients. So I really enjoyed that, and it taught me these skills in a really interesting and engaging way. That required a level of independence and brought some individuality to my work.
Yeah, that's perfect. It summarises it so well in terms of sort of connecting the things that I've been talking about, being prepared for real world, looking at sort of documentation, things that you might over the sort of the course of GCSEs not really have the experience of. But yeah, the independence, the ability to be creative with the NEA stuff. If you kind of follow the guidance and work hard, you can sort of develop some really original sort of concepts and ideas. So thank you for that, Harry. Chloe, can I ask you what your favourite thing is about studying IT, please?
The best thing about studying IT at EHC is the subject knowledge that Mr. Stead has. I don't think you could get that anywhere else. He's got really interesting opinions on the topics that we learn about, so it's definitely good to listen to him talking about it, and also he's able to thoroughly explain what things mean, so you're never left not understanding terminology and things. You just need to be honest and just say, look sir, I don't understand this, and he'll make sure that he's fully explained it to you. Thank
you very much, Chloe, and Chloe makes a lot of good points there, and one of the ones I'd just like to pick up on is being open, being honest. If there are times where I will assume knowledge and think that students have understood, and some do, but some don't. The other thing I always mention at this point, this course allows students to have better knowledge than me in some areas, and I enjoy that, being challenged, where you might spend a bit of time on new technologies that I've not had the chance to. I do have 2 young children at home that take up quite a lot of my time, so yeah, sometimes students are the experts, which is one of the reasons I enjoy sort of teaching this course. So yeah, thank you for that, Chloe. Embarrassed as ever that you said such nice things. And then Harry, can we jump to? I think I keep rewording this for you, don't I? I said the strangest thing, but the kind of most surprising thing that we've learnt about that you weren't expecting to cover on the course. If you could explain that, please.
Yeah, I think the most distinctive part of the course that I didn't really wasn't really expecting was when we learned about the industry certification and professional bodies, which these organizations are basically responsible for training and testing employees in the world of working. And it was covered as part of the Unit 1 exam work. And I found it really strange because the whole sort of information around the world of work had always been sort of a grey area in terms of my knowledge and experience. It's not something I've participated much in or have heard much about. So learning about them was quite strange, at least just for me. For other people, it might be different. Yeah, but I found that quite interesting and different.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Harry. It picks up on the common themes of we're not just looking at purely academic A level here, where you are told something, you gain the knowledge, you revise it, you apply the knowledge in the exam. There are elements of this course that are specifically targeting young people developing skills and knowledge that will be beneficial moving into the world of work. So yeah, thank you for picking up on that part of the course, Harry. And then we've still got a couple of minutes, and I think it is important because Chloe's been really successful in securing an apprenticeship off the back of the hard work she's put into 2 years. So Chloe, could you just talk about the last question in terms of what you think is helping you most in terms of sort of real life after completing the course?
I definitely think that the whole course sets you up for real life because there's such a broad spectrum of topics. They come up when you least expect it in real life, like AR and VR. That came up when I was doing my interviews and things for my apprenticeship, and I was able to wow the interviewer with my knowledge of it. And like other people as well that were also trying to get the apprenticeship that I was working together with, they were like really impressed. They were like, "Oh, we didn't know about that, so glad you told us." So it was good that I was able to show off my knowledge from what I'd learned from the course.
Yeah, and again, I mean, thank you, Chloe. Even sort of the technical stuff in terms of AR, VR, people tend to assume they're one and the same thing. There are subtle differences, and there's a different use for them. But again, jumping back to what Harry said as well, if you can go into a situation maybe for an apprenticeship or a university sort of interview, and you can show you have the topic knowledge of AR and VR, but also an understanding of employability and professional bodies and standards, it possibly gives you an extra kind of string to your presentation of yourself, as opposed to those that maybe just focus purely on the knowledge and the application of knowledge. So I think this course, while it's quite broad and there's a lot of things to do and to learn, I do think it's a really strong course for students to take their next steps. So technically we are about out of time. I've got something in my eye, which is making this difficult, but the last sort of couple of slides, just want to mention the summer project very briefly. You will be asked to do a little bit of something for each of the subjects. Very much like the lessons, I'm trying to get independence. I'm trying to get students to think, for themselves, based on information that's available. So the summer project is literally watching a couple of TED Talks in terms of IT relevant topics and making notes. There's a little bit of extension on there if you want to do a bit more. But that's literally it, just to try and pique your interest in some areas that we might look at. And finally, is just to thank you. It's not the easiest way to get across what a lesson would be like. It's very artificial doing it through Teams in this particular way, but hopefully you've got some good information, particularly from sort of Chloe and Harry, and it's enough for you to think, yeah, IT is a course for me. I can use that in the short term and medium long term. And if that's the case, I look forward to seeing you in September. And that is your taster session finished. If you would like to leave the call, enjoy your afternoon in college with us when you've finished your subject sessions. Thank you very much.